Okay, well, what did you like about teaching in art education?
Teaching art,
Mm-hmm.
teaching illustration.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I like the kids first of all.
Yeah.
I really made a lot of friends.
Yeah.
That was one thing. You have to be careful. You can't be a friend, a buddy, but
Right.
you can be friendly. And it's most of my friends that I travel with doing painting and stuff
Mm-hmm.
today are alumni.
Yeah.
Who've gone out, they've been out 10, 20 years, and I
Mm-hmm.
go painting with them,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I learn from them now, and that's the one nice thing.
Uh-huh.
So I learn from them now.
They become your teachers.
They become my teachers, yeah. Mm-hmm. Constant study. I think I probably was in my 50s when I realized, man, I should be going to school now. Now I'm ready to be a student,
Uh-huh.
because when I was a student, I wasn't ready to be a student.
I know. I totally agree.
Yeah. So I finally learned how to learn by then.
Uh-huh. It really is a skill that you have to learn how. But do you think that, like, when you learned how to be a better student, it helped you to be a better teacher?
Oh my goodness, yes, yeah. It really did. I worked much harder on course curriculum, course preparation, much harder on my own work so that I could be a better teacher. I think that's a critical thing.
Yeah. So one of the things that you said before is that, like, you can't be a buddy with your students. How do you figure out that balance between, like, wanting to be there for them but then not getting, I guess, maybe too involved?
Yeah, I sometimes have trouble with that.
Uh-huh.
You have to know when to back off, and they have these fascinating conversations instead of working in class that sometimes you'd like to comment on. You've got to let it go. Except when they get into politics and say, sorry guys, politics isn't on my course curriculum. They can talk about food in my class. I'm good with that. That usually doesn't end in fights.
Right. Like, what advice do you have for new teachers starting out, especially in the art world?
Well, I couldn't relate to elementary, but to university I certainly could. One, remember, no matter how weak you feel you are, you're better than they are. And that's one thing. One thing that always bothered me about students is they trust their teachers too much, and so I really kind of challenge kids to challenge me. It makes you work harder.
Right.
But you've got to make sure that you don't get so arrogant you think you know everything. Because by golly, you sure don't.
Right.
I mean, even though you know more than so keep it simple. Figure out what's the key to each problem. What's the base? I'm very good at finding out what's the one thing they really need, one or two things they really need to know. But you're always going to have those one or two who still don't get what you're talking about. And this is another thing that was really interesting that I did very, very early on is you're doing a class critique. Here's your 20 pieces on the wall. And you learn pretty quickly that the problem Joe has is the problem that Betty has, is the problem that Mary has, is the problem that Normandy has. You know what I mean? And you could just, you could just Xerox a sheet off and pass it out and just check off these these things that you have. And but in the process of developing that artwork, and you're going around the room, you're having to. Here's the principles you're learning. You have to show up what it means to each individual. They can't take the theory and understand. They can't just. Most of them can't take theory and just apply it. You have to show them in their particular project what it means. And isn't that weird? You have to show them individually what this particular aspect of color theory means in their work.
So you have to show them how to apply it to themselves.
Yeah. Students have different learning capacities, and you have to be very, very patient. Patience. Because they're great people, and they're here to learn, and you're going to get in there, and you're going to do the best you can to help them learn. But it's sometimes I want to wacko,
I know. But
take off the top of the head, scoop out the old stuff, put in the new stuff.
But then you have to let them learn how to be good students, just like you had to learn how to be a good student, right?
Yeah, well, it's going to be like me. learned in my 50s.
Right.
No, actually, students do learn a lot. But what I learned years ago in a university education, they're not going to master anything. They're going to learn how to learn.
Uh-huh.
Now, if they can learn to assess
Uh-huh.
what they have done and measure it against what they should be doing out there, look at the real talents work and see where they are against that. Man,
They
that
have
is
to
really
learn how to
something.
teach themselves, really.
They have to, because they're only going to be there 4 or 5
I
or
know. And then
6 or 7 years.
exactly. I know. Yeah, some of us
But that's
do
the
that.
real thing.
What is the most challenging, like, what did you find to be really challenging in teaching?
Criticism.
Mm.
You know these things you guys would fill out as students
Uh-huh.
on assessing teachers and
Uh-huh.
courses. I get a little defensive at times.
Really?
I have an ego like anybody else.
Uh-huh.
But you can't take it to heart. Not everybody's going to like you.
Uh-huh.
Some people are going to hate
Yeah.
Miss Lucia.
Yeah, I suppose that would be true.
Yes.
I have experienced it before, and sometimes I'm like, how can you hate me? I'm nice, right?
Then,
Was there ever a time that you felt like you didn't know how to handle a situation?
yeah, there's always those.
Uh-huh.
So maybe let's talk about it. I'm sure there's something we can discuss here. He comes back up to this, you let people cool down.
Right.
Just let them cool. Some people don't let them cool down, but you let them cool down. And you sit with them, and I sit like this. Well, Nate, what's going on here? How can I help you? You want to tell me about this?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I feel so bad,
Uh-huh.
You can disarm them usually. And just a little patient. Don't fly off the handle. Just be cool. Just you got to just be patient. I never allow them to push. I might get really upset, but I've learned just to back off and let them go through it. So you get these kind of frustrated students. Just let them cool off. You don't want to do either one of you any. You don't want to explode into something else. You don't want to become anything. Most people will just back off, cool.
Yeah.
And after that, you have a good friend.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised by showing them a little patience. They just don't do it again. I've never had it. Somebody just continue to hate my guts.
Uh-huh.
Just they only hit it for a little while.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I've been through these kind of things. And the reason I'm patient is because they don't know what the heck to do.
Were there anything difficult with, like, politics? Like, school politics? Yeah. I think that would be my least favorite part. That's why I've avoided teaching for
There
a
are
while.
politics. Yes. And politics generally come down to one thing, personality. At BYU, we, of course, would assume everybody has a Christian ethic. We respect and love each other. But some people's personalities are such that they think their point of view is the only point of view that can be tolerated.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't fit in that point of view, they make life hell for you.
Uh-huh.
And that's just all it is. It's all about selfishness.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are very selfish. They don't realize it, but they are.
Right.
And they just make life miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And it got. I had one time. No, I won't say this. Never mind.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine that would be really difficult.
So, yeah. There you go. And you're going to deal with it everywhere you go. There's office politics. There's politics in the home.
Right.
Everywhere you go, there's politics, and it boils down to selfishness. Don't be selfish.
Was it ever hard for you to put aside your selfishness and, like, your...
No, it's not very hard for me. No. And I get my comeuppance. I deserve it. I can see it, and I
And then
can
you have to
work
just-
very hard to be altruistic. I don't have to work very hard to be altruistic. I can see easily what's best for the majority.
Well, do you have any final words?
I just think there's. I remember that handbook for teaching in the church, teaching
Yeah.
their greater calling. I agree with that.
Yeah.
It really is a great. It's a great experience. says the problem we have with professionals, they need to look at their job through the eyes of the gospel. But they look at the gospel through the eyes of their profession. And so this is the kind of thing I've internalized. You have to look at teaching through the eyes of the gospel. Okay? Okay. And then you love your students. And you'll find balance. So carefully assess all the dogma that you're supposed to preach. Is this right? Really? Is it right? Is this, can I, in good conscience, teach this? Because it is it paralleling what I'm taught in the gospel?
Right.
So you have to apply that to everything you do.
That is really good advice.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to Elder Packer for that.
Yeah. I feel like I have to think about that one for a while.
You should.
And process that.
You need to process that.
Uh-huh.
In other words, everything you study, everything you're taught to teach, you better make sure it balances with as gospel truths. That's what it means. That takes some study and some time and some contemplation.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure. Hope this helps you pass your class.
I'm sure it will. I think it will help me be a better teacher.